This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for Thursday, April 17th, 2025. I'm Marek Mazurek. Workforce development officials are sounding the alarm regarding a potential loss of funding for the state's Jobs for America's Graduates, or JAG, program. The concern stems from the proposed biennial budget currently being considered by the Indiana General Assembly. Kurt Kegeris, executive director of the Southeast Indiana Workforce Board, says House Bill 1001, as it currently stands, removes the line item providing $8 million in funding for JAG, which had previously been under the purview of the Indiana Department of Workforce Development. Instead, JAG is being moved to the Indiana Department of Education as part of a group of programs under the Freedom of Opportunity in Education, where they will have to compete for a share of funding. In an interview with Inside Indiana Business, Kegeris said having a direct line item would ensure JAG could continue as it has for many years.
The removing of that line item is a little worrying that there's no guarantee that they will fund it. There's some movements to shift this to the Department of Education, and it can be successful at the Department of Education as long as it's, in my assessment, as long as it stays a workforce program, as long as it's understood that this is about creating and fostering talent, and those are the ultimate goals.
Kegeris says he hopes lawmakers see that the JAG program is, quote, an impactful and efficient investment worthy of continuing direct funding. St. Louis-based grain and soybean manufacturer Bunge Global is planning to sell its North American dry corn masa milling business unit to Graincraft, an independent flour miller headquartered in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The deal includes several Bunge facilities, including a grain mill in the Greene County town of Worthington. A spokesperson for Bunge said the milling business unit employs a total of 580 people, though it's unclear how many work in Indiana. Financial terms of the deal are not being disclosed. The sale remains subject to regulatory approval and customary closing conditions. The spokesperson declined to provide an estimated timeline for the deal to be completed. Bunge will continue to manage its operations in Indianapolis and Decatur. The company is also expected to complete construction of a $550 million soybean processing facility in Morristown this year. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
To succeed, you need to stay informed. You need to be engaged. And let's face it, you need to set yourself apart from the rest by connecting with a company that brings you the best. Because in today's environment, business is an ever-moving target, and we'll help you chase it. IBJ Media. The best of business is in us. Get started at ibjmedia.com/youngprofessional.
In a sharp turnaround from the flush financial fortunes of the last budget cycle, Indiana's projected revenue for the next budget cycle fell by $2 billion, according to new forecast data publicized on Wednesday. The current budget cycle for the 2025 fiscal year is also short by an estimated $400 million, though closing that gap will likely rely on reserves. Indiana's tax revenue is still growing, but not at the rate anticipated. According to Chief Budget Architects Senator Ryan Mishler and Representative Jeff Thompson, everything is on the table when it comes to potential cuts. Mishler said the $2 billion shortfall, quote, scares me a lot more, end quote, than the shortfall during the 2008 recession, given the number is higher and there is no federal money coming. The pair didn't rule out increased taxes on cigarettes, gaming, or alcohol. Lawmakers get two budget forecasts most years, one in December and one in April. The December forecasts included roughly $800 million in new revenue for the state over the next 2 years. Now even that marginal growth is gone. Much of the loss can be attributed to economic uncertainty, including worries about the impact of tariffs on the country's most manufacturing-intensive state. The Ports of Indiana and bulk cargo handling company Metro Ports have signed a 5-year extension of their operating agreement at the Ports of Indiana Burns Harbor. Metro Ports is one of the longest operating stevedores in the United States and has managed bulk cargo handling at the Lake Michigan port for nearly a decade. Both Metro Ports' parent companies are based in Long Beach, California. The extension of the operating agreement comes amid increased shipments and ongoing expansion projects at Ports of Indiana Burns Harbor. Burns Harbor in 2024 handled 2.8 million tons of barge, laker, and ocean cargo, up 5% from the prior year, helping to push volume shipments at Indiana's 3 ports to the second highest year ever. Carmel Mayor Sue Finkman is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC. A weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. Carmel Mayor Sue Finkman is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC. A weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, entertainment, and beyond. Available now from your favorite podcast provider. I'm Marek Mazurek for Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand.